Feet at a 45-degree angle. Please hold up 2 fingers on the right and 5 on the left, and repeat after me as we recite the Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam Moors, I want to announce this meeting is now open. This is the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple 30, Columbus, Ohio. First and foremost, we always rise, giving the highest of praise to the Most High, our Father God, Allah. We extend honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality. And we also extend honors to the forerunner to the prophet, Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We extend honors to the Moorish and the American flags. And we extend honors also to the Charter and its 10 wonders. We extend honors also to the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh by the Prophet, Brother Emily Ill, and we extend honors to all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We extend honors also to the current the office of the Supreme Grand Sheikh and Supreme Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam. Brother Jackson Bey, would you please read our divine constitution and bylaws?
Islam Grand Sheikh, I rise giving all praise to Allah, honor to the Prophet Jali, honor to the forefathers and foremothers, and honor to the Asiatic nation and the Muslims all over the world. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on the Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on the Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is a holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and partial of the government and must live a life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865, during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you're entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder. Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, Home Office of Noble Drew Ali, Home Office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Some luck, y'all.
Islam and gratitude, brother. Brother Kobe, would you please read our writ?
Islam Grand Sheikh, I rise and give perfect praise to the great God Allah, rise and give honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, rise and give honors to the forerunner Marcus Messiah Garvey, rise and give honors to all ills and bays, all Muslims on the call and on the planet. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their cardon button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting the prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is instructions from your prophet Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times are drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Drew Ali, and that is why many hearts have turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they'll be confined of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace. Your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. To be proclaimed in every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now, by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I need finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nation of the world will not recognize the movement without either prophet being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Sunday, School Master.
Islam and gratitude, brother. We will now read our additional laws and divine warning. Additional laws for the Moorish Americans by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1. Grand sheikhs and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses, Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon by any members, let it be finance property or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finances, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Act 2. All members are to attend their ADUP meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on a meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second he will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation, and if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire, and let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality in their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the Prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and the principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind, to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine right as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know the law in the city hall and among the officials in your government, and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply. For they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of the government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mine back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored deludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and thy mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So, there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, disease, etc. And I, the prophet, do herein believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with the divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses, but I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. From the prophet. All right, Islam Moors. Today we're going to be in our Quran questionnaire, of course, but I really just want to focus on one thing in particular. And let's go ahead and see if we can get this up on the screen. Okay, Islam Moors. So yeah, really want to focus on the purpose of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Right, question 15, which might seem really simple, but it's something that needs to be made apparent to all of us. We all need to understand this inside and out. And that's for what purpose was the Moorish Science Temple of America founded? For the uplifting of fallen humanity. For the uplifting of fallen humanity. So we want to know exactly what the prophet means by this. And then going to understand what the prophet means by this, we will also, I guess you could say by default, learn what it doesn't mean. And this is important to note because there are many of us, many Moors, even Moors who are in the temple, who are not uplifting fallen humanity, fallen humanity, or not even attempting to uplift fallen humanity. And this has to be discussed. It has to be explained and made plain and clear in a way that we all understand, right? And so that there's no confusion. So let's go to our Moorish literature and actually look at the words of our prophet so that we know what we're supposed to be doing, not just what I'm supposed to be doing, not just what some of the other officers in the temple are supposed to be doing. No, what we're all supposed to be doing as Moorish Americans. Now, if we look at the proclamation, right? Temple tax necessary. So this was published, I believe, in the Moorish Guide, and this was sent out to all the different temples in all the different cities so that everyone would understand what had happened in convention. So this would have been after convention, which happened in September of 1928. And it says convention votes unanimously tax paid monthly, because of the fact that the expense of operating the temple is increasing so fast that it was found necessary to vote a tax to the prophet to carry on the work. This idea was concurred with by the Supreme Grand Council. This act is so arranged that it will not be a burden to any of the temples, but the prophet is very emphatic that it shall not be ignored. So this temple tax is being enacted because the expense of operating the temple is increasing. And remember, the temple is founded for the uplifting of fallen humanity. So we're beginning to do these things to uplift fallen humanity, and it's explaining what some of this is. The expense of operation has heretofore been taken care with funds received from the manufacturing department. And it was found that it was a burden on that department. So the temple has a manufacturing department, right? Manufacturing goods, producing products. They were producing at that time the prophets tea and oil compounds, but we know that's 1920, right? This is in the past. We're now nearly 100 years later. So that has to be updated to things that we can manufacture, that we can produce, maybe even some of the prophets things from the 1920s, but it's come on, man. We have to keep it all the way real. It's 2024. So we have to operate now, in the here and now. And we need to produce things that our people need right here and right now, right? Islam, brother Yabe, I see you. I yield the floor.
Islam, I rise to my highest heights, giving all perfect praises to our Father, God Allah. I also give high honor to our Prophet Noble Ali and everybody on the call and all prophets before and after. Question, or more or less a question statement, asked when you was talking about the manufacturing department. Me and a couple more had conversations outside of the temple, as we do always, and we talked about taxes, and we talked about the IRS taxes, the federal taxes, and we talked about how if we were operating properly as a whole, we would have businesses within inside the temple that wouldn't get taxed by the IRS, which in that case, we would have to ask the question more or less, would the actual members get taxed from the IRS? The answer would be no. Now, as the state taxes and local taxes, I don't know how that would operate. I'm assuming that those taxes would go to the temple. Now, those are the questions that we have to ask and have a little bit more better understanding on how the business element of the Moorish Science Temple of America was functioning then. And also, all the temples would have the compound teas and ointments. They would have the Moorish guide papers for sale, and they would have all the literature for sale. All of these basically they was infused in the temple. So automatically when you got a temple, you had that infused in it. And the practice was you would have two businesses that was supposed to be mandatory. You were supposed to have a grocery store, and you were supposed to have a laundromat. So these businesses were funding the temple as well as the products. Islam, thank you for the time.
Islam, brother, gratitude. And the Moors also had other endeavors too. They had moving companies. A lot of our people were moving from the south, moving into the cities. So they had obviously that's just opportunity. So Moors would have moving companies, charge them to move. And this would be done under the temple. So this is another way to raise funds. And since it falls up under the temple scope, right, that business could then be opened under the temple, right? And instead of paying taxes necessarily to the IRS, right, there's a amount being kicked back to the temple to raise funds for the temple. All right. And so in order to do this stuff properly in 2023, we're going to have to get legal assistance. We're going to have to be able to hire accountants and maybe even tax attorneys or attorneys that specialize in religious corporations to do it right. And the reason I'm saying this is because we can't depend on anyone else to do it for us. Obviously, nobody else knows what to do. There's no Moors we could just pull to the side and say, hey, Moor, how's this supposed to be set up? Help me get this running properly. They don't know. If they did, it would be easy, just a template. We could just take and do it and it'll be done already and we're just up and rolling. But obviously it's not like that, right? So we have to figure out everything. We have to figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to get the building. We have to figure all that stuff out. I'm not saying any of this to make anyone feel bad, or hopefully this isn't like, destroying morale. We're just being honest and real here and looking at this to see how we can do this great work. Right. And so we're going to have to use some of the temple funds to get some real professional assistance so that we can make sure everything is structured properly, and so that we can have businesses under the temple in a proper format, so that the people who are running that business feel safe. They don't feel like their business is potentially is not that it could be taken from them. Everything has to be done properly, right? But this is how the prophets started it up. And so just putting that in the modern sense, these are things that we're going to need to do over time to protect ourselves and to make sure that we can follow the prophet, right? So the prophet speaking though on the manufacturing department and how it was a burden on that department, right? For it to be the only thing is creating the fund. So they created the temple tax. That's also why later on, why you had the per capita tax and the uplifting funds, which are supposed to be sent to the home office, right? From all the Moors across the nation. And then going forward, it just says this will mean that the numerical strength of the temple will bear the proper share of the responsibility of operation. But then we have to take into account what state is the home office in. And we have to be real about that, Moors. We can't, be in denial. So we have to be real about that and say, well, if the home office is in a state of disarray, we just have to hold on to those funds until it's strong enough that we feel confident and comfortable that this is set up and established, how the prophet is intended, and that we can send finances to the home office. So everything has to be in order, right? As it says here, the per capita tax is intended to supply all members alike, governors and grand sheiks included. And then it's just giving examples on how the numbers, the finances are supposed to be kept up. If anyone wants to go and look at that on your own, just go to the Moorish literature, look at temple tax necessary, right? So once again, we're speaking on the uplifting of fallen humanity. Okay, let's go to Moorish leaders' historical message to America. Now in here it says, in connection with the aims, objects, rules, and regulation of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization. And this is written by the prophet, covering its inception, rise, and progress of all the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you, and by the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations to mankind in general. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you to see more clearly see the duty and wisdom of at all times upholding those fundamental principles. Speaking about those 5 divine principles, upholding them at all times, which are desired for our civilization of our posterity, such as obedience to law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. Remember those because these are words from the prophet. So anyone is saying anything that's not in alignment with this, obedience to law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity, you should know that they're not in accordance with the prophet. So the prophet is speaking about the incorporation of the temple, how it was changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America as it became a religious organization. And then he says, the object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. Now, this is being done for a purpose, right? We want to know what this uplifting of fallen humanity means. We all have to know this inside and out. is, as it says here, a national organization with a Rotarian complexion, meaning even though in our different states we may have some different customs, some different, just little different nuances about us, but at the core, we're all the same. No matter where you're at. You're at the temple in Washington, the state of Washington, or in Virginia or Ohio, right? At the core, we still are the same. Even though we might have a few little differences and things about us, right at the core. So there's some things that across the board we're going to be about. Okay, so moving on. Hang on. Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit to this effect has been properly filed in the Cook County Recorder's Office in Illinois. Inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran, we have it as the revealed word of God Allah. We shall foster the principles of its teachings among our members. This is our religious privilege as American citizens, under the laws of one of the greatest documents of all time, the American Constitution. And he speaks about the Mohammedan religion. Okay. Now I'm not gonna read this whole thing, so I just want to go back again, Morris. Make sure you go. Sometime this week coming up. Make sure you go and read over Moorish leaders' historical message to America, because I'm going to skip around. All right. In connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote what? What, Moors? Economic security. That's not all he says about it. The preaching of economic security among us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. So he says, in connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. So the promotion of economic security is a part of our religious aims and beliefs. And just in case anyone thinks or is thinking that's taken out of context, very next sentence says the preaching of economic security among us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. So there's no confusion. Moorish Americans should be businessmen and businesswomen. We should be industrious, because this is a part of our religion. This is one reason also why the prophet was bringing, or one of the ways of dress for Moorish American men was the suit and tie, right? Suit and tie with a fez. That's just one example, but I'm just saying this is a part of our religion. So we're supposed to be industrious. Moors throughout history have been industrious, right? We are doing trade all over the world, setting up outposts everywhere. Right? This is what Moors have always done. So we're returning to this. This is a part of returning to the ways of our ancestors. So it's a part of our religion. This falls up under the uplifting of fallen humanity. And then, just in case people still aren't getting it, right? I'm not talking to you, Moors, but I'm saying just for the Moors out there in general, it's in case they still don't realize how important the economic security is to us. The prophet says no other thing is needed among us at this time than greater economic power. He doesn't say no other thing is needed among us at this time than to know who's the real supreme grand sheik, to know who has the true lineage, to know who is actually connected to the prophet by paperwork or by, line of succession or any of these things that you have several other groups of Moors. And this isn't said to disparage anyone, but this must be made known to the public, because this type of foolishness is being carried out in the public, and it causes confusion, and it turns a lot of Moors away, And over time, it wears Moors down, and it makes Moors think that this joke is that this movement is a joke and unreal. It doesn't say that no other things needed among us than to prove that you connected to the prophet. No, greater economic power. So if we follow the prophet, we are doing what we can to increase our economic power. We're making moves. We're practicing group economics. We're working together to increase our economic power individually and collectively, because no other thing is needed more among us at this time than greater economic power. So if this is not, and it not just being, paid lip service to in actions, in deeds, and of course, putting our money where, down, because you can't just talk about something, right? Everybody balks when it comes to putting money up. So we have to actually be doing this and practicing this. If we're not actively practicing this, we don't really follow the prophet. Remember that. These are words from the prophet. No other thing is needed more among us. Better positions for our men and women. More business employment for our boys and girls, and bigger incomes will follow our economic security. Then he hits on it again. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. A beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities of life, right? We can't be out here saying, hey, we got to subdue the lower self, the higher self, and people are struggling. People don't have their basic needs. Ain't nobody trying to hear that, right? So we have to secure the economic power. We can't even develop the highest in us, right? We can't even attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities in life until we do this. We can't forget about this. And please, Moors, we cannot get caught up in what any other Moors are doing if they are not following these instructions from the prophet. We can't even really unify if we're not following the prophet. So everyone, especially that claims to be a Moor, when we come with the business opportunity, hey, Moors, well, we have these fezzes for wholesale. You're in a whole different state than us. You can, provide the national headdress for the Moors in your area. That should be the starting point for unity right there, following the prophet. Economic security, increasing our economic security, way for all of us locally, and you in your area also, to raise finances for yourselves and your temple. That's just one example. It's not like we're perfect, but we're trying, right? And this is the only way to actually follow the prophet and to move forward, right? We can't unify under some lineage claiming to be connected to the prophet. We can't unify under anything else. The prophet said we shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. Now, I'll tell you what happens when we're not moving like this, when we're not working to attain economic power. What happens is then you have more squabbling and just entertaining the lowest of vibration, discussion, or the lowest vibrational discussion possible. Then you have Moors trying to disprove other Moors. Moors attacking the Moorish Science Temple of America, Inc., trying to prove that they're not real. Trying to prove it for what? Where's your economic power? Are you working towards your economic power? What is it doing other than making a public display that's going to turn other people away? It's going to make the movement look like it's a joke and unreal. And unfortunately, we have Moors doing this, right? Personally, because I'm going to say something about myself. Personally, I had to back away from putting out videos trying to educate people or let people know, hey, Moors, we're not out there trying to squat in houses. We're not out there driving without a license. I had to stop doing that stuff because it's like, man, some of that stuff I don't even need to be bringing light to. It's embarrassing. It's just making us look like a joke and unreal. So I'm not saying this once again to make anyone, feel bad. I don't want anyone to take this and, because this stuff is embarrassing. So I don't want anyone to hear this and to feel like, this movement is a joke and unreal. I just want you to know that when Moors don't follow these divine instructions, when they go in the wrong direction, they will stagnate the movement. And even entertaining those types of discussions would stagnate us as well, right? We can't spend hours and hours of time going back and forth with people who are not making these economic moves. Now, we can spend an hour or two, discussing the economics of how we can trade. We can work together. Well, Morris, this is what we're doing here, and it's working great. Well, we have these items, you can get these from us, or you have those, or we'll just trade them, just straight up. And something of that nature, right? This is how grown men and women should be discussing and making moves, especially when we're talking about having a nation and building our nation up, empowering ourselves. We have to follow the prophet. So just moving forward, I just wanted to share just a few more things from this. Once again, this is Moorish leaders' historical message to America. Our men, women, and children should be taught to believe in the capacity of our group to succeed in business, in spite of the trials and failures of some of them, right? So we want to increase our confidence in ourselves, right? It doesn't matter. We do this and, it's not bringing in a lot of money or just, that's what happens in business. Who cares? Some business ventures of all people fail. The prophet said that, and it's true. Who cares? Keep moving, keep working, keep moving in the right direction. And just to reiterate this, in closing, the prophet says, read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It contains our hopes, aims, rules, and articles of religion. Every member should have a copy. So Moors, seriously, when you get time, make sure you go and read over the entire Moorish leaders' historical message to America. Okay, and you'll see that nothing's being taken out of context. But what the prophet says about economic security is of the utmost importance. We don't want to hang our hat on some alleged connection to the prophet by lineage or something like that, by paperwork. There really are Moors doing this, and the reason is because they're producing nothing. The prophet, in speaking about the Moors, he described us as industrious, right? We're supposed to be productive, producing something, being of service to the people, to the community, whether it's our community or just the entire world, right? Producing, bringing something to the plate other than just words, other than just paperwork, right? And I have to address some things also. Don't really want to speak about this stuff because once again, it's the type of thing that makes the movement look like a joke and unreal. But I have to talk about it. So for the last 2 years, the administration that we were previously associated with has had libel, defamation, slanderous statements on their website concerning not just us, but pretty much their entire grand body. And I'll show you what I mean for those of you who have never seen this before. I just want to make sure that I explain this correctly because this stuff is confusing. It's confusing. It's crazy. And nobody has time for this mess. But this is what happens. And the reason I'm going to show this to you is because this is exactly what happens when you're not producing anything, when you're not working to increase the economic security, when you're trying to hang your hat on your alleged lineage, your alleged ties to the prophet, which, is a myth. It's a myth, Morris. And that's a lot of people will hear that and get, upset, but who cares? So with the previous administration that we were with, this is their website. There were several issues with the leadership, which I'm gonna have to explain. I'm gonna have to explain it, which is another thing. I didn't want to get into this stuff because it is embarrassing. It's foolishness. But with this administration, there were several issues. In actuality, there were actual violations of the prophet's law. It caused us to have to move away from them. Matter of fact, that grand body that was with these Moors voted to remove that entire the leadership, everyone on that Supreme Grand Council, all of the national leaders for that body of Moors. All right. And I'll discuss some of the main issues right now. So, in doing that, first off, I want to go back into our Moorish literature. Well, before I do that, let me go back to the website. So the reason I'm addressing this is because they have Libel up here on their website. It's been up here for a while. When you go to their locations, they still have us listed on their website. Says inactive, restricted, which we obviously aren't. We're still acting. They don't have the authority to do any of these things, but I'll explain why in after I show you what's been going on. So on the website, it says removed from office 9/19/2022, which was 2 years ago. So this has been on the website for about 2 years. This is done in the public, so it has to be discussed in the public. And they had all of the officers at that time for our temple listed on there too, with their names crossed out, and it says removed from office. It has that for pretty much every temple that they had. If you go here to what it says for Florida, they don't even have their officers listed. These people that are listed on there don't even live in Florida. You go to Maryland. Let me speed this up. Baltimore, Temple 19, they have everybody removed. Texas says the same thing. Inactive, restricted. And they took the temple leaders off of there. They just put other people who are regular members as the leaders. But all the temples are listed as inactive, restricted, and pretty much have the same thing going on, where they either just have all the leaders on there listed as removed, or maybe they try to list regular members as the leadership for those temples. Okay. And so the reason this is done and the reason I'm going to address this is because this is straight up libel. Now, libel is when you verbally defame someone. Libel is the act of writing a damaging or untrue statement to another party. So they're saying that in convention of 2022, they removed all of those temples that are listed on there from office. None of us went to convention in 2022. When I say none of us, I mean Ohio didn't go, Baltimore didn't go, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky. None of these people went. They had maybe 2 or 3 leaders there from some of the temples, and one was because New Jersey is a person who's on their Supreme Grand Council, and the Ohio Temple in Toledo, which is actually where their leadership is. They're not located in Chicago. Just in case anyone wants to reach out to the brother Dandridge, who was the former Supreme Grand Sheik, he's in Toledo. He's not in Chicago. So they're trying to move everything to Toledo. So that's pretty much the only temple they have. All right. And they said that at that convention in 2022 that they removed everybody, but they can't do that. The Supreme Grand Council cannot remove the grand body because the grand body has to vote and approve any and all removals. And I can actually show you this from the wording in the Supreme Grand Council rulings where this is discussed and made clear. So even just from that perspective, you can't remove anybody without the grand body being present. The grand body did not go because they did not approve, they did not recognize those people as leadership. They were in the process of removing them, which actually took place that year. Moving forward. So that's one of the main issues, and that's why this has to be addressed. They have this on the website. This causes confusion. This is the type of foolishness that happens when we're not being productive, working to increase our economic security. You have people doing things that, doing little petty things, going back and forth, trying to disprove each other, prove that I'm the real temple and you're not, right? But I want to go back to our Moorish literature and show why before this leadership was removed, there were several issues with them. Now, first off, I'll just start with us here in Ohio. When you go to the Prophet Has Spoken, everybody go check that out. Should be the first thing in the Moorish literature. But when you go to the Prophet Has Spoken, it says all governors and grand sheiks and head officials that guide any body of Moors of any temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America, he or she must be of good moral standard and a heart of love, and their works must be of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. They are to imitate the prophet in speech and teaching in any said temple. They must not be under the influence of intoxicating liquors or any other harmful motive that will terminate to become detrimental to the organization. All right. So the leadership, grand sheiks and grand governors, this isn't talking about all the members. This is saying if you're grand governor, you're governor or grand sheik, you can't be out here getting drunk and high. You can't do it. And especially when it becomes public notice and now it's making the whole organization look bad. That's why it's saying they will terminate to become detrimental to the organization. Any other harmful motive. You got to cut that stuff out. This same group of Moors in Toledo, Temple 12, their grand governor, Blackshear Bey, actually was arrested for driving under the influence. And he basically took a plea of no contest, which is basically pleading guilty, but it's like a little loophole that people can take so that hopefully you get like a reduced sentence. And that's what happened. Blackshear Bey in the state of Ohio was caught under the influence, I guess, of marijuana, operating a vehicle while intoxicated. This was brought to Brother Dandridgel. When we found this out, we had issues because his grand governor was not teaching anything. He was not even attending any of our meetings. He wasn't doing a good job. This was brought to the Brother Dandridgel. He had no issue with it. He kept him in that position, right, for 2 more years. All right, this was an issue. This was like strike one against that leadership. This was brought to the rest of the grand body since this was a local issue and we figured they didn't know. Once we joined that temple in Toledo, after a year or so, we started finding out they're holding all type. They have a lot of skeletons in their closet. And I guess in order to be a part of them, you have to hold other people's secrets too. But we're not holding that stuff anymore. Now, also, if we go back to that website where they list the leadership for Temple 12, there's another glaring issue. A big issue, at least, from our perspective, because, not perfect, but we do try to follow the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. When you go to Temple 12 Toledo, which is pretty much for them, that's their home office because that's where they're all located. They're not in Chicago, right? Hold up. Another glaring issue and problem, and another thing that makes the movement look like it's a joke and unreal. They're Grand Sheik, Junius Murray, the third Bey. He's married to a European. We brought that up too with the leadership. This is an issue. Why do you have a Grand Sheik that's married to a European? I'm not making these things up, Morris. I'll explain what that means to us, brother. I'm not saying this to try to put out dirty laundry. I didn't even want to discuss these things because it makes the movement look like a joke and unreal. But unfortunately, they have libel up on their website. They've been defaming us for almost 2 years now. And I know that some people will see this stuff and be confused and wonder, is just as you said, what does this mean for us? I'm going to tell you what it means for us just in 1 second. Just please bear with me. So, yeah, they're Grand Sheiks, European. This is another issue for any Moors that don't understand why that would be an issue for Moorish Americans. We're not racist. We're not against any other people. We don't dislike or hate Europeans or anything like that. However, in chapter 48 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, we have divine instructions from our prophet that we have to take seriously, especially the leadership. We as a clean and pure nation descended from the inhabitants of Africa do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. Neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Now, if anybody wants or needs proof that the brother's married to a European, I'm not gonna put the pictures and stuff up there or anything like that, because there's no attack on that brother. I know him personally. He's married to a European and was married before he was made the Grand Sheik of that temple. That's why it's a big issue. That should not have been occurred. That shouldn't even have happened. All right. Is a conflict of interest as a Grand Sheik, as a Grand Governor. How can we even teach from the Quran, right? Especially we're married, we have a family, you know, with this, it's a conflict of interest that shouldn't be occurring for the leadership. And if you're in a relationship with the European, there's no knock on you. There's no attack on you. It still may be a conflict for you, though, even as a member, right? Who's not in leadership. And you know, just as a human, like coming to you in love, we're not saying this to try to make anyone feel bad. Okay. But as a leader, as a Grand Sheik, Grand Governor, it's a no-go. That's going directly against the Quran. And so these were just some of the issues with the leadership that were serious. Then there was something that occurred in 2022. Wait, excuse me, 2021, the previous year, which involved attacks on two members or one member of the Supreme Grand Council, Brother Quan Pitzel, and then a former member of the temple, Brother Sparks Bay. Where Sparks Bay was said that he was attacked by the brother who was made the Supreme Grand Governor by Dandridgel, also member of Temple 12. And the brother Quan Pitzel claimed that Keith Dandridgel actually attacked him when he gave him a ride home. He said that he wanted to get some paperwork from Quan Pitzel. And the two brothers had gotten into a fight because Dandridgel tried to force himself into his home. Now, we actually interviewed, the grand body interviewed Brother Dandridgel and Quan Pitzel on the phone at the same time, and we got the confession from both of them, right? Dandridgel admitted that he did fight, that he did get into it with them, right? He didn't admit that he was trying to push up into his house, but he did say that they fought. This led to the removal of that administration, meaning the brother Salim, the brother Dandridge L, also El Divine Bay, the brother Parker L, or who's also known as Talik L, who's also on their Supreme Grand Council, and I don't think I'm leaving anyone off, but that led to the removal of them by the grand body. And so maybe I'm just throwing numbers out there and it's not adding up, but there was meetings that occurred throughout the summer of 2022, and it was not a secret. It was made known to the whole grand body Brother Dandridgel and Nuruddin Bey, they were all interviewed. They knew what was going on. They knew that the grand body was going to remove them. And that's why they try to remove everybody else. Or at least, say that they removed everyone else. So once again, the reason that I'm addressing this stuff is because I know this stuff causes confusion. And I try to take the route of not giving light to these types of things and not talking about these types of things. Because first off, if you don't really understand what's going on, it's just confusing. And then second, you're hearing all this stuff, it's just negative. It's like, who has time for all this drama? Who has time for all this foolishness? Everybody already has enough to deal with in their life, right? But I think that I have to address it because this stuff is being done in the public. It's put out there. The whole story's not being told. And this is being done by Moors who are producing nothing. All right. Those Moors, we joined in 2018. They still have no products, nothing that they're producing. When we joined the temple, they told us to go to lauderers to get our fezzes. Okay. We even tried to bring to that leadership, hey, well, we can produce our own. And, they're stagnant. Nothing came from it. So we did it on our own here in Temple 30, Columbus, Ohio. We just started putting money together and we started producing fezzes on our own. And so I'm saying this to say the answer or the remedy to that is to follow the prophet's instructions and not to give light, not to waste your time and energy on this foolishness, not to entertain this type of activity. When we encounter Moors, and I'm telling you this, knowing that some of the Moors that I know, they're going to get mad when they hear this, but when you encounter Moors who are telling you that, oh, we're the original Moorish Science Temple of America because blah, 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 blah. More, I'm telling you just in my experience, turn around and walk away. Turn around and walk away. It's not being rude. It's not being mean. But you see what the prophet said and what he stressed. That's why I wanted to read this to you more. He didn't say the importance is to prove that you're connected to me. He never said that. He said the preaching of economic security is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. And even almost 100 years later, it's still not being preached and practiced. It's still not as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. And then the prophet, once again, right after that, he said, no one other thing is more needed among us at this time than greater economic power. So it's not about having some lineage or connection. You hear Moors try to harp on that because they're not putting in the work. They're not rolling their sleeves up and trying to figure out how to increase their economic power. This is a part of our religion. This is really what I wanted to hit on because this is a huge part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. The prophet was very practical. Was he mystical? Sure. But he was very practical, very realistic. He said a beggar people cannot develop the highest in them. We know that. If we're struggling just to get by, right? We can't be all meditating and floating around. We're not even going to get there. We have to take care of our basic needs. This is a part of our religion. There's no other way around it. So if Moors aren't acting like securing our economy, empowering us economically, if they're not acting like that's a part of our religion, that should make the lights go off, like alarms go off in our heads. Like, okay, there's a problem here. This is what we are encountering. Not trying to sit up and act like we're the only Moors that are trying to do the right thing. I'm just saying this is what we've encountered with the leadership, and this is why we have to move as we do. And when I say as we do, I mean focusing on building up our temple and our community here, focusing on improving our economic security and focusing, to make sure that we're actually following the prophet. If we're going off a little bit, make sure that we're correcting ourselves and getting back in track. It's not to disparage anyone else, but this is to let it be known that Moors have time for all of that foolishness when they're not doing this work. They have time to entertain all types of things, and we have to be careful about what we entertain. Our mind is the most powerful thing. So we cannot give our time and our focus towards any foolishness. It will pull us off track. It may not pull us all off track, but on the individual level, it may pull you off track because you'll think that the foolishness is what the movement is. You'll think that the movement is a joke and unreal when really it's just those Moors. They're the ones that's a joke and unreal. They're not even trying to follow the prophet. And that's what we see. And that's why, this is also a warning to anyone that is aligned with those Moors. They have misstepped consistently. That's the only thing we've seen from 2018 up until 2024. They've misstepped every year. We're not seeing any correction to get back in alignment with the prophet. So we're moving accordingly. Islam, brother Yabe, I see you. I yield the floor.
Islamism, I re-rise. Thank you very much, first and foremost, for this to touch on this topic in this meeting. It was much needed, especially for me. And I mean that from my bottom of my heart, for sure. When this particular thing happens, right? The question is two questions I have. One, when this particular thing happened, what would be the protocol to remove whomever is supposed to be in an official seat if we as the members of the Moorish Temple of America deem them to be the officials? One. And two, if we do not do such a thing, are we as a Moorish Science Temple of America hold, are we shortchanging ourselves by leaving people in a position, in a particular position, if we are using this as the main body to the organization as a whole, or are we supposed to detach each other as an octopus and just leave the main part, whatever, and then little tentacles being themselves and then grow with those tentacles? Because the only confusion part for me would be that if we were all a part of one particular body and it was a violation, that those people were to be removed from those seats and other people were to be in place in those seats, so that can continue on, so the strength in numbers would be there. By us not being all together like that, it separates us as our power, and then that's where the confusion will lie. Can you please touch on that matter if we have enough time? And if not, I don't mind you talking to me at another time about it, but that meant a lot. Thank you. Peace and love.
Islam, brother. And we put the call out there for any other Moors too, to come and assist us, come on and join and assist Temple 30 in building this up and working to make sure that we're doing this the right way. Now, I'm not going to act like I have all the answers, but I do think the answer to your question is by simply following the prophet. And I'll just go back to this phrase that's highlighted right here from the prophet. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. So if the leadership is faulty and it's brought to the attention of the grand body, and the grand body votes to remove that leadership, now how are they going to actually stop them in this day and age? You're going to have to pursue legal action. You're going to have some finances to have the attorneys, file suit so that there's some type of repercussions from those people trying to continue to move as the Moorish Science Temple of America. So this is why, just going back to the prophet, we shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. We can't even make sure that people who are criminals, people who are embezzling the faith, right? People who are literally embezzling money, we can't even make sure that they're not just going and scamming some more people. We can't even be secure in that until we have economic power. So at the end of the day, it just goes back to following the prophet. We have to stick to the prophet's rules. We don't need to ask their permission. We don't have to ask anyone else's permission to make sure that we are working to increase our economic power. And as we do that, now, as the prophet said, now we can start to secure these things that we need to do. Now we can start to clean things up. Now we can start to make sure that there's not 15, 16, 17 different people claiming to be the supreme grand sheik or whatever, right? And then also, if they're still beggar people, it don't really matter what they claim. The Nation of Islam, a lot of people don't know this, but there's other different factions of the Nation of Islam. There's a brother, I think he's still alive, calls himself the Son of Man in Detroit. There's a Nation of Islam that I think is based out of Atlanta. There's another one based out of Texas, right? There's another one that's in Kansas. The leader of that one's called something Royale. And so I'm just saying that those are just the ones that I know of, but there's probably more, but they don't matter. The Nation of Islam, their leader is Minister Farrakhan. They're the ones that have the final call, which is actually a viable business, right? It's real. It generates finances. It supports itself. You know, they have legit businesses. They have their economic power. So all them other little ones, they don't, you know what I'm saying? They're not legit. And if the nation isn't pursuing any legal action to shut them down, it's because they don't have to. That's the point where we need to be at. And we won't be secure in anything until we're there. And there's no other way around it. So that's what I'm saying. It ain't about the lineage. It ain't about none of that. A lot of those people have it wrong. It's about this economic security. The prophet made it clear, this is a part of our religion. Until we make it a part of our religion to increase to make our greater, our economic power greater, until we make that a part of our religion, we won't be secure in nothing. And we won't be able to stop the other ones, even if we stopping them, not by shutting them down, saying you can't do this. No, by outshining them, by actually, doing this work of uplifting fallen humanity. So that, is probably not going to happen overnight, but that is what I wanted to harp on. That's what I want to make sure that we at Temple 30 understand. This is a huge portion of what we have to do. This is a huge portion. I mean, if we follow the prophet, this is the biggest portion of uplifting fallen humanity. We got to do it. And as long as we understand this remains something that we're working on, that we're focused on, and we're going to achieve it. And we can work with other Moors across the nation who are aligned with this too, who follow the prophet, right? Who don't just pay him lip service. But, I'm just sharing this so that Moors understand what's actually going on here, and also have a clear idea of how this really works, because I don't care who's claiming to be supreme grand what. Their temples aren't creating this economic security. They don't have anything. They don't have power. They don't have power. That's just the reality of it. It ain't about the titles, because if it was, there wouldn't be 15, 20 of them right now claiming to be the same thing. Islam. But yeah, so that's just going back to question 15 in the Quran questionnaire about the uplifting of fallen humanity. That's the purpose the temple was founded. And so we see that the prophet connected this economic security to our religion. And so literally those are the words he used, in connection with. So This is why he told us to open businesses under the temple. It wasn't done so that some lazy thief could steal your business from you. No, no. So we eventually will need to make sure that things are set up properly so that nobody could do that to you, so that everybody feels safe. Because the prophet actually had people who were millionaires, people who were well off, come in and assist. So we want to make sure that our organization is locked tight in that manner. And we don't have to get anyone else's permission to do it. We don't have to wait for some stagnant Moors to come and do it. They're not going to do it. They're all trying to connect themselves to the lineage, to some paperwork. So if you have an idea of what to do, that means that it's on you to do it. We can't look around for anyone else to show us the way. We just have to do it and show others by our actions. Islam and Moors, I just, want everybody to have a good understanding of this, but I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor to questions and comments. Moors, please feel free to share your thoughts. Islam.
Islam, peace and love. Islam. I just wanted to say, peace and love, real quick. Yo, that's what we need to hear right there. Like, you know what I mean? We need to hear we need to hear the morals, and we need to work on our morals and our money, our spirituality and our skrilla, all at the same time, the prophet and the prophet. That's all I really got to say. I think that's how we got to do it. And I think understanding our religion in the aspect of you know how a lot of times we understand that there's no separation between church and state. There's no separation between spirituality and money. And just like the prophet has said, you really can't really work on your spirituality. Can't really read it right here, but
More,
you
if
get what
you,
I'm saying. We gotta work.
hey, More,
We gotta be
you
able to.
got cut off.
I did. You hear me?
Yeah, like 10 seconds ago, we got cut off. We couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, like what the prophet has said. It's over here. It's right there. Like what the prophet said, you can't really obtain the height. I'm paraphrasing, but you can't obtain the height of our spiritual faith if we, like you said, a begging nation. If we out here broke, you feel me? And then broke people like got a lot of things to talk about, and that's what I see about the Moors, and that's probably what from the outside looking in. A lot of our fellow Asiatics look at us like y'all just bickering and stuff, but then you see other people like small pockets of Hebrew Israelites, so you see the small nation of Islam, and they're financially with it, so they got things to offer people besides just a good talking to or a history lesson. And that's what we need to understand. That's why we need to get our finances up so we could help the like the prophet said, help fallen humanity, and then help the better, humanity around us. And then they can come in and help us. And then it's just like how the prophet and Allah actually wants us, peace with everything around us. But we can't. We're gonna continue to be banging on each other over petty stuff because really you ain't got nothing else to do. And them YouTube clicks, and people got, people get paid off those clicks and stuff. So yeah, let's just get this money. So I'm talking too much, but yeah, I appreciate this talk today. GS, peace and love.
Islam, brother, and I agree with you. We don't need to prove that those Moors aren't real or these Moors aren't real. Get all that mess. All that does is turn people off. We just need to focus and get money. We see it. It's a part of our religion. We have to promote economic security. Yeah, we won't be secure in anything until we have economic power. We have to keep that at the forefront. We need to put that on T-shirts, man, or something. That needs to be on the top of the website. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. This is a part of our religion. Islam, I yield the floor. Islam, brother.
Islam. First, I want to rise, give praise to Allah, honor to His Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, honor to all the true and divine prophets, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Confucius, etc. Honor to the forerunner, Marcus Messiah Garvey. honor to you for your demonstration tonight, brother, and honor to everybody that's on the call, and honors to humanity as a whole. Now, I just wanted to say that the topic that you chose tonight, it seemed like I've been discussing this for 2 years now, and I was waiting. And I had to be more proactive, but I was waiting for somebody to say something about it, to the extent that you just demonstrated tonight, because the prophet's words are clear. And I've been a member of the temple in Philly, and I honor those brothers and sisters as well. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like I was telling my brother the other night, it's just sometimes I go to different temples and be around different Moors, and the energy is just sluggish. You know what I mean? It's like nobody's dealing with reality. It's almost like it's not that not Christianity, but I seen this growing up, just like the church. And I was joking with my brother as well about, like, but at least at the church you get to go to great adventures once a year. You know what I'm saying? With this, you don't even see that. But I just wanted to honor you for keeping it 100 tonight. Peace and love, bro.
Respect, brother. In light of what you said, if you feel the energy here is good and sincere, we just put the call out there to just, regardless of location, feel free to reach out to us and join, proclaim with us, and help us uplift fallen humanity. I say this because I'm sure there's other Moors that are also doing this good work as well, but we also know there's Moors that are not following the prophet's protocol all over the place. So, if you feel that we're working to be on the right path, feel free to join with us. Islam. And when you join the Moorish Science Temple of America, you're not supposed to feel like you have to keep secrets because the leadership have a bunch of skeletons in their closet. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Not saying that any of us is perfect or anything, but it's not supposed to be like that. It just isn't. So, the leadership isn't supposed to be turning you off and turning you away, making you want to leave and making you think this is a joke and unreal. And at the end of the day, I just think a lot of us are avoiding the economic power because we just don't want to do the work. And people are relying on the fantasy, thinking they're gonna get money from the government, thinking that that they're gonna get something out of being connected to the prophet, right? I can't put my foot on it, but I mean I think it's basically related to people not wanting to do that work. All right. And I'm just trying to keep it real. So on that note though, before we close out, I'll go ahead and open the floor up. If there's any other questions or comments, Morris, please feel free to speak. Islam, brother.
Islam Grand Sheik. Yeah. So I wanted to play this video because what our prophet told us is kind of somewhat similar to what Tony Montana said in the movie Scarface. I just play a little bit of it, then I go into a little bit of detail. Yeah, so basically it's saying that you don't get no power until you get the money. And so let me cut this off here. Yeah, so basically you gotta get the money, then you get the power, then you get the respect. And so basically you gotta get the money, then we get like basically you get like economic power because man, you touched on this a while back too. And I was like basically wondering like if I get some property under the temple or whatever, would it get taken? But at the same token, we gotta kind of like learn from from the mistakes of what the temple went through before, like almost 100 years ago, because they had like all the money, but a lot of people didn't have the knowledge of getting lawyers and everything. And what you had told me is like you advised that I get a lawyer just dealing with as interreligious law. So we started to get properties and everything. We have everything on paperwork, and it'd be better for us. And at the same token, if we're doing what we're supposed to do, other people will respect what we're doing and then join on. And so I kind of think this might be like a big test from Allah, basically just to see if we'll still do what we're supposed to do under this situation, because everything happens for a reason, and maybe this is something that we have to get over. And with that, I give up the mic.
Islam, brother, I agree with you. Islam, does anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, Islam, Moors, if there are no further questions or comments, we're going to go ahead and go into the closing of the meeting. Having already read the additional laws and divine warning, just want to remind everyone that you can always go to our website, that is moorishamericans.com. If you have any questions, or if you are ready to join the temple and proclaim your nationality, just go to moorishamericans.com. You can hit that contact button on there to reach out to us. You can send a message on the website, or you can call us, and we'll speak to you on the side and get you started. Also, we are accepting donations. If you feel compelled to assist us in the great work of uplifting fallen humanity, please use that donate button on there. Send a donation to the temple. And on that note, Moors, that's moorishamericans.com, moorishamericans.com, moorishamericans.com. And on that note, Moors, let's go ahead and close this meeting out. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Want to ask all members who are able to please stand and face the east for the closing prayer. You do not need to repeat after me. We stand with our heels together, feet at a 45-degree angle, holding up 2 fingers on the right and 5 on the left. Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers' divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name, in the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam, peace and love, Moors. This meeting is now adjourned.
Peace and love, family.
Peace and love. Peace.
Islam, peace.